walking you through us building our flow-through Betta system. When we're done, it should hold over 100 Bettas. This is where we're going to be building at. This is our rack, as you can see. It goes up to here, I go to here. It's very tall. We're very excited about this project. We will try to take you through every step of the way as we do this, and hopefully it works.
Let's go! Yeah! Woo! Betta rack, baby! Woo! So this is the shelf we'll be using for our Betta system. This is a 2 foot by 4 foot by 78 inch tall, kind of heavy duty storage shelf. We've used this on other projects before, and I don't know if I'd recommend this specific shelf, although I'm sure there's plenty others with these dimensions that will work just fine. Specifically, we used this before. We had a kind of row of 10 gallons on one of the shelves, and because of the way I think it was sitting on the shelf, it kind of caused the tank to like bow a little bit and crack. So needless to say, we stopped using it. But hopefully with these trays, that will help alleviate this, because this will distribute the weight really evenly across the whole thing, and we're also not putting near as much water on each of the shelves, so the weight should be way down. So these are hydroponic flood trays. And they're meant for like growing like microgreens and starting plants. I don't do a whole lot of that, so I'm sorry if I butcher all that. But this one is specifically designed to fit onto these types of shelves. So I'll go ahead and slide it on. And then we'll actually do this the other way around when we build it, just so you see this. But it has a built-in gutter system that hangs off the side of the rack. And this will be great so we can set up our drains for our plumbing. So I have a sump that'll go down here at the very bottom, and from the sump it will feed into all of these other trays. And so these or having like this dedicated drain and gutter area will allow us to have really nice, clean, well, in theory, clean plumbing to go down to the sump. And then all of our Betta containers will fill the tray.
So we're on our way to Lowe's for the second time today, the third time this weekend, because someone got the wrong size of something. So here we go again. We didn't even get to start building the thing. We got the shelves on the rack, and then we realized we had the wrong part before we could even drill something. So we're not excited to go back to Lowe's, because we've spent how many hours in Lowe's?
Too many.
Too many. So we'll see you soon.
With that Lowe's trip out of the way, now we can start to build this system, starting with the drains. This I knew was going to be the hardest part, and this is what was going to really kind of lock these trays in place. Once I had all this in, doing the fill line was going to be quite a bit quicker, and I knew this was going to be the worst part. There's definitely far better ways to do this than what I ended up doing. I'm no good with PVC. I'm pretty new to this kind of thing, so forgive all of the probably horrible techniques and design everything that I did. Use this more as inspiration if you want to build your own system. Don't just do what I did, because oh boy, I had problems.
Hey Drew, why does that piece look different?
I drilled the holes too close to each other, so I had to redesign the whole drain part for this one shelf. And hopefully just this one shelf.
The design for the drains of this system was more a result of the parts availability local to me, as much as it was like an actual well thought out design. I kind of knew going into it, I really wanted to have the drains get bigger. I wanted to have quite large drains. I just wanted to have a ridiculous amount of redundancy when it came to this system, so that nothing could like clog and overflow. And even then, the whole drain is not totally assembled, as I don't have the permanent filtration or sump on the system yet. So part of this is still subject to change, or it's definitely going to change. With what the clip you just saw, I assembled 2 different drain designs. Each one kind of has their own pros and cons. The one on the bottom with 2 individual 1-inch pipes that connect to the main drain is much easier to assemble than the method I use above it, where I connect the 1-inch drains to 1.5-inch T's that go to a 2-inch drain. The reason I did that was just, again, more redundancy. Have the 1-inch drain go to a slightly bigger drain, go to a slightly bigger drain. That design was much harder to set up because of the dimensions of the PVC. I had to make sure the holes in the trays were far enough apart so that it would fit. And that's, of course, where I ran into issues. Luckily, the other ones actually went fine, but it was still a massive pain. The other plus to this is that it gives me more access to the fish, because with the other design, the pipes get in the way a lot more. Assembling the rest of the drain went pretty smoothly, really, once I had the first couple kind of figured out. At that point, it was just repeating what I had done over and over again until I got down to the sump, where I just kind of threw something together that would get it into the sump itself. Because the 20-gallon tank that's down there is temporary, it's going to get replaced with a 40-gallon tank. I want to have a proper filtration system with mechanical and dedicated biological filtration. Right now, it has just kind of a sponge filter and some stuff, so it's very temporary, but it works. It recirculates the water for the fish, and right now that's the most important part. When I fill up this system and I have 108 bettas on it, I'm going to need every bit of filtration I can get, but right now with just a kind of a smaller number, about 30 bettas or so, it's not near as bad, and those fish aren't as taxing on that system. It can handle it quite well. Moving on to the return side of this system, it's quite a simple design with 2 pumps that'll sit in the sump. Those will supply the water to the return line, which goes up the corner of this rack, or the whole system rather, and then it tees off to manifolds on each of the shelves of this system. And now on each manifold, there's valves that have been put in either side that supply water to each of the Betta containers on each side of the shelf. And in total, there's 108 different valves, 1 valve for every single container that can be supported on the system. And it's quite a simple design, really. And it had lots of issues, especially with valves leaking, but considering with the 108 valves, with some silicone, I was able to get the vast majority, I think at least, keep those from leaking. I'm pretty happy with it. With any leaking valves, it's not a big issue because the water just drips right back into the system. It'll just be if I have to really maximize the flow. But the pumps are quite big. I think these are typically used for like fountains or ponds and stuff. They're quite heavy duty pumps, so they seem to be doing just fine. And then you'll see on the containers for each of these bettas, and we'll talk a bit more about the containers in a second, there's these little rings around the airline tubing that goes from the valve to each of the Betta containers, and those will eventually seat into the lid. That system's just not built in yet. One quick note, just on the top shelf, there is a really horribly janky, unsecure system of just loose PVC that I kind of secured just to hold up that top manifold. Hopefully that will be changed out and kind of done properly at some point. We spent a really, really long time figuring out what tank/container jar thing that we can use to house the bettas on this system. And oh my goodness, it took over like my existence for quite a while, just hours researching and trying to find new containers and things, because with every single one I'd find, there's always something I didn't like about it. And ultimately, I don't want to say settled on these, but I think these are the best for this system. And these are 64-ounce square clear deli containers. And these worked really well because they had a great balance between price, ergonomics, kind of the ease of use. the durability, as well as the size and how it fits on the system. Now, specifically, these containers fit these trays perfectly. It works out just perfectly that we can fit 4 rows across the whole tray and however many deep or wide. And they fit great. Now, these are quite affordable. These are stackable, so they're really easy to store. They're quite durable. They have these slight rims kind of around the outsides, which makes it really easy to pick up. And there's enough space inside for the fish. There's enough space for them to swim horizontally, vertically. And keep in mind, these are temporary containers. These are not the permanent homes for these fish. It's just for the few months that they are growing out their fins, kind of once we get to that jarring stage of development with bettas, until we can sell them or decide we want to keep them and move them to our breeder system, which we'll make a whole other video on. That'll be that's its own thing. Now, we did try a whole bunch of other containers, and I'll probably do a kind of comparison video on those as well as in the future, because there's so much to talk about that it would make this video twice as long as it needs to be. With the containers on the shelf and doing 4 rows for each shelf, it was designed around the idea that you could look at it from both sides. And so from one side, you can interact, reach, and feed 2 rows of bettas. So to elevate the containers that would be in the middle 2 rows, I devised a system to use tile with a few bricks just to create a little platform for these containers to sit on. And this is just to allow for ease of feeding, observation, and in the future we may elevate the containers in the front just a little bit so we can see them just a little bit better, because when they get down towards the bottom of the container, they can hide a bit better. And that can be problematic, especially when you have a whole bunch of fish on the system.
All right, we're gonna plug it in. So this is, the water's still filling, so as it pumps, it'll keep filling the basin. We didn't hook up the hose on the top, which is fine. We're gonna put fish up there for a while, and hopefully it's not gonna shoot out. I don't know if these pumps are crazy powerful or crazy underpowered, because this isn't like, I don't think this is like plumbing for like a regular fish tank, because there's like 100-something individual tanks and they all have to get water, and so they all have their own valves, they all have to get calibrated, and I just need them to not shoot off the manifold and fly into my face and make a mess. Okay, I'm gonna plug this in because it's getting full. I'm gonna plug one pump in at a time. I think it's just gonna pump right back into here, so I think I'll have to plug in both. Okay. Oh. Yeah,
I see bubbles.
It's pumping. I'm guessing it's just gonna pump up through here and down. I see water dripping. Oh! Oh, we got water. It's actually coming back out.
Oh, you have to grab that.
What?
Our box cutter's on there getting soaked.
Oh, shit! Where's your box cutter? Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, crap. Box cutter. Yep. Alright, we're gonna plug in the second pump. Yeah, we're gonna go plug in the second pump. Oh gosh.
What's spraying?
There's a hose sticking out of the tub. I don't know. I didn't like it, whatever I did. Oh my gosh, this is gonna make a mess. Oh, I'm getting wet. I don't know what I'm getting wet from.
Here, I'm going around.
Lots. No water has reached the top yet.
No, but there is water spraying into some of these containers.
Oh, you can, I don't know.
I'm getting a nice little mist over here. It's like I'm at a theme park.
Okay, I'm gonna start closing some of these valves so that it's not powering out. You can start closing some valves too if you want.
I'm trying to film, but...
Oh, it's coming through the drain. So one of the tubs is already filled. Going through. Turning off all these stuff.
Wow, I really do feel like I'm in like one of those little misters at a theme park.
Yeah, this really is what this is like. There's a few valves leaking. Let's see if that's a problem or not.
So that's where we are with this system right now. We still need to add a proper filtration system in the sump. When you get the proper sump that we're going to end up using, adding lights to each of the different shelves so we can see all the fish. Try to find a way to maybe hide some of this awful looking PVC. I want to try to find some ways to grow different plants, like terrestrial plants, off this system with these big reservoirs of water. I think it looks super cool to have all these Betta containers with each of these fish and then have plants kind of growing up and around the containers. And we also have to work on getting dividers, visual dividers for the Bettas. These are all siblings, at least most of the ones you're seeing here are all siblings, and they've kind of just gone from being together to being in this type of proximity. So it doesn't seem to stress them out too much, but when we get multiple spawns, we're going to have to go in and do that, and that'll be its own video. Because, yeah, I think this video's kind of gone on enough. And then once we have the sump and lighting, we'll do kind of an extended or continued build of this system. But for now, this works. There's a whole bunch of other projects going on in the fish room that I'm really excited to show you guys and to get started. And now that this system is in place, our Bettas can be housed and we don't have to water change them all the time. It'll free up so much time to work on other stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Honestly, this has been a huge project and a massive undertaking, and I'm glad to finally have at least part of this video series, just this system out, and I'd love to know what you guys think. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all of that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.